Good morning. My name is Pia, and I'm here with Emily, the YA librarian. We're going to make today a apple crisp pizza, and she's going to read the ingredients for you guys.
So, today we will be needing our pie crust, which should have came in like a little bag like that. We're going to be needing apples, sugar, flour, oats, butter, cinnamon. Instead of a pizza pan, you can use a cookie sheet, which is what we will be using. So our first step is going to be to cut the apples.
Okay? So you can cut the apple in half, and then you would peel it, wherever you feel more comfortable to peel the apple. So you're going to do that first.
So as you can see, it's not super close to the edge when you're using a knife. That's okay. You don't have to be like right off the edge of that skin. You can just make sure your knife gets in there and peels all the skin off.
Take off the center, the seeds.
The core of the apple needs to come out. So you just dig your knife in there to pull it all out. And you want to get rid of all of the crusty stuff in the center there, anything that's hard.
Okay. Now you're going to dice the apple. Hold on. Okay.
So we're going to do big dices, not little dices. So it's more like a chop than a dice.
Remember, you have 4 apples, so you're going to do the same thing with all 4. I already have 3 here, and I'm going to add this one. Okay. Now we are going.
This would be a good spot to pause the video and continue your dicing.
Okay,
Once you're done with your dicing, we can come back. We're going to be adding to our apples sugar, flour, and cinnamon.
Okay.
So now we're going to be adding our flour. We're going to measure 3 tablespoons of the flour and put it in.
What else?
And then you're going to add 2/3 cup of the sugar. That's the whole bag.
That's the whole bag?
So we have ours pre-measured out. You can just pour the whole thing out. And 1 teaspoon of cinnamon.
Teaspoon. That's teaspoon. Okay.
And then mix it all up.
All the apples needs to be covered with the mixture.
can see when she bounces it around, it gives the apples, gets a little bit better covered than just using a spoon.
Okay. What is next?
So then we're gonna work on our pastry so that way we can get those apples going. So your next step is going to be to roll out your pastry. So your pastry is technically a 9-inch, and they want it to be about 12 inches. So basically what you're doing is just flattening your pastry a little bit. Gotta be a little careful peeling it apart so that way it doesn't rip.
We don't need to do anything. We don't need to do anything. But I just, actually when you buy it at the supermarket or whatever, you don't need to do much.
You're just gonna make it a little bit thinner. So you're just gonna roll it carefully to give it, to thin it out just a little bit.
Not too thin. Okay, I think that's enough.
Okay, now you're gonna crimp the edges to give it that like pizza crust look. You're just folding over the edges, pushing it down so that way it connects to the piece under it. So that way it kind of has like a pizza crust kind of feeling to it. Ours is not sticking too well. We're gonna have to go back around.
Okay.
So just make sure yours is sticking down. We're gonna have to,
I don't want it to, oh yeah, you want to stick it down?
Yeah. There we go. Now it's getting some stuff. Okay, so once your crust is made, we are going to put the apples on a single layer across the top of it.
Oh, but I should put it in there. Hold on. So, wait. Before you do that, you're going to put, spray it with
Vegetable oil,
vegetable oil.
canola oil, something, some sort of non-stick oil.
Yeah, not good. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Ooh.
So you're gonna want to do that before you put the apples on it.
Yes.
It just makes it kind of heavy to transfer it. So you don't want it to be a single layer. So you gotta soften the edge. And if you don't use all of your apples, that's okay. There could be some left over.
Yeah, like I maybe try to cover all the spaces.
So wherever there's a hole, just toss in a couple of more pieces.
That doesn't count.
Lost a piece, I'm gonna eat it raw.
I think I can put all of them.
There we go.
I have my hands are clean.
So we're overfilling ours, but you don't have to make it so full. I'll eat the rest, it's fine.
Okay. Okay, next.
Now we're gonna make the topping. So, for the topping, you need flour, brown sugar, oat cinnamon, and butter. Okay, so for our topping, we're starting with our brown sugar, and we're adding
half a cup of flour, half a cup of
oats, rolled
Oats.
oats. These are the old-fashioned oats, so you're not gonna buy the pre-cooked ones
No.
in the supermarket. These are the
original.
original oats that would need to soak overnight.
Right. A teaspoon of cinnamon and half maybe?
It's half a stick of butter, which works out to be a quarter of a cup. And the butter should be salted, and they're asking for it to be softened, which basically just means take it out in the beginning of what you're doing, so that way it's not super hard.
Right. So you're going to soften it either with your fingers or you have
A whisk or a
Whisk.
spoon,
then
whatever you're comfortable with. We find that our hands work best for
Hopefully.
mixing this.
hopefully it would work. So you're going to mix everything. You should load the oven.
Well,
Should I do it with the whisk? I don't know.
try it first. I think you're doing it. So as you can see, it's really clumpy and it gets really in there, so it's going to take you some time to really mix it up. You can use a back of a spoon,
I'm getting in there.
your hands.
All right.
Alright, see now it's starting to really come together. There's not so many dry ingredients. It's really all mushed together. Should feel like dry, like wet sand,
Mhm.
or trying to think of another analogy.
Yeah, it's like a
Dirt. It's got a dirt-like consistency.
clam.
Right.
Is that what the kids play with? Clay?
Slime, clay. Like a Play-Doh or a clay.
Okay. Now what is next?
Sprinkle it on top. Okay, so now you're going to be adding it to the top. You want to sprinkle it all over. Make sure you cover as much of it as you can.
Don't be afraid to get dirty or to put your fingers. This is the fun part.
And there's no raw egg, so if you make a little extra, you get to eat all the extra sugar.
Okay. Okay.
So now you're just going to pop that in the oven for 35 to 40 minutes until the apples are tender.
Okay, so we need
So this is another great place to hit pause and get your stuff in the oven. And then we'll show you what the finished product looks like.
how long water this?
So here we are about 15 minutes in. As you can see, the edges are getting a little brown, very little. You're going to want that to go a little bit longer. halfway through. Some of the apples are starting to bubble. It's cooking nicely. Okay, so our apple crisp pizza is just about done. As you can see, the edges are lightly browned. And when we open it up and stick a fork in some of those apples, they're nice and tender.
Do you have a hot plate? Ta-da!
And here we are. So you would just use a knife or a pizza cutter to go ahead and slice that up into pieces. Don't forget to let it cool for a little while before you do that. And there's your pizza.